The town of Winhall's Energy Committee has unveiled a new way for local residents and others who may be interested to track the town's energy use. A set of charts, known as a dashboard, has been added to the town of Winhall's website at winhall.org, which shows the use of energy at the town's fire station, town hall, transfer station, town garage, community arts center, and library. The use of electricity, propane, and oil are tracked, along with the overall monthly costs. Propane is a heating energy source at Town Hall, the garage, the community center, and the library. Number 2 oil is the heating energy source at the transfer station. It's a system similar to, but also a bit different, from one set up by the Arlington Energy Committee, which also aims to track energy use and develop the data that might eventually point to the ways of both saving the town money and moving towards renewable, climate-friendly energy sources. For a deeper dive into what the Winhall Energy Committee is working towards, we met up with Mike Cole and Andrea Almaden, members of the Energy Committee, and Scott Bushy, the transfer station supervisor, to learn more.
So it's a publicly available, it's a web resource, so that people can kind of check into it if they're interested in it. It's public data that's graphically displayed based on all the energy use at all the town's municipal buildings. So it's really just intended to be something that it just kind of creates a place that people can see how the town is doing, and as the town makes improvements as far as efficiency improvements, then it'll be something that the degree of how much improvements those achieve, it should show up in the dashboard. Well, it just got launched in January. We received a grant from the Vermont Council on Rural Development.
Yep.
Maybe you can say a little bit more about that.
So the grant process, it really can go towards, the grant idea is that you can go towards any energy-based programs. So for the energy dashboard, for example, that was the use that we saw fit to, as Mike said, to find a way to publicly display Winhall's energy usage, and for anybody to use, especially second homeowners who maybe aren't around, who can't go to the town hall and see the energy bills. They can now go online from their convenience of their homes and track that usage and now see and maybe give them an idea about energy efficiency in their own homes. The grant process itself was pretty simple. I mean, I'm not really sure what else to speak to about the grant itself.
Yeah, the Vermont Council on Rural Development has this Climate Catalyst Innovation Fund, and so we applied for it, and they generously gave us a grant for it. So it's funding the first year's operation of the dashboard.
Well, Scott, so over at the transfer station, I would imagine you must be a fairly large user of energy. There must be a lot of open doors, open windows.
Well, it's not so much that, but we have 3 machines there. Each machine runs a 10-horse electric motor to drive the hydraulic systems in the packers, and that it uses energy. There's no doubt about it. The transfer station itself, there's only one building that an actual light is on in during the day, and the forebay is not part of the transfer station. So you're looking at the usage of those machines, and it's big. They pull a lot of power. If you fire all 3 at once, you will dim the lights on whatever lights are on, which did not surprise me when I did look at the dashboard that it was that and this building, I believe, were the 2 highest users.
I think the fire station actually was.
Or was it well, it could be, because that has an electric heat system in it that's.
If I understood it correctly when I was looking at it earlier today.
On a cost basis, yeah, it actually has a higher cost, but in terms of the usage, the usage. Yeah, the town hall and the transfer station actually have higher usage. So that's one of the interesting things about energy is that we get bills and we pay the bills, and so we all feel that, but we don't necessarily think as much about how much we're using. And there's really a lot about energy that's about choices, the choices of different energy sources that we pick. Some of them are actually more expensive or less expensive. Some of them produce heat more efficiently or less efficiently, and some of them produce waste on top of all that, and others do not. And so what the dashboard is really letting us do is to see all three of these things in terms of the cost of the heating, lighting, and power of these buildings, the use that's going on to operate these buildings, and then the waste that's coming off of that use as well. Most of the time the waste itself is actually, carbon dioxide. So if the heating, lighting, and power could be done completely perfectly, there would be no waste energy, there would be no waste byproducts. And turns out that one of the things that's interesting is that Green Mountain Power tells us, according to their reported information, that 100% of the electricity that comes to Winhall is carbon-free. And so it's not a widely known point, but it's kind of interesting because it lets us look at, well, how much of our total energy use in these town-owned buildings is for electricity, and it's about 2/3, which means that all we would need to do is just eliminate the remaining 1/3 of the non-electricity energy uses that we have, if we could find suitable alternatives for it that didn't compromise what we're using that energy for. If we were able to eliminate that remaining 1/3, then we would have eliminated the carbon production, the carbon waste that's coming out of the buildings themselves. So it's interesting because we can look at both use and cost, we can look at waste, we can look at the choices of different energy sources, and we can really make more informed decisions about it as a town, but hopefully then town homeowners, about 85% of which are second homeowners here in town. They'll have a way from their homes and wherever they may be that they can actually be looking at what's the town doing to improve its energy efficiencies, what choices is it making, could I be making the same choices at our house, at our second house that's in Winhall, and getting similar savings. So
the other thing with the dashboard that really works well is, as Mike was alluding to, that anybody can go on here and look at it. If you know anything about requesting public records, it's not easy for the average taxpayer to come in here and then get with Lissa Stark, the administrator, and say, hey, I'd like to see the energy bills for the past year. It takes time, where this, you can jump online, you can hit the button, there it is, you can look through the different things they have on there, it's right there. And I think it's going to be a much better tool for that average person, because just thinking about how to get that information from here it's a process. It's not a simple click and point and oop, there it is. It's a process. I was impressed with it when I went on there. I flopped around on it and it was easy, and I am no computer guru, and it functioned really well.
I think it helps to compare apples to apples. So we have a number of different fuel sources in town. You've got number 2 heat fuel oil, you've got electricity, you've got wood. I mean, those are the 3 main ones. So propane, right? So all of those different fuel types cost different amounts per gallon or per unit, and then you have to compare the efficiency of those to that unit as well. I'm not saying it as eloquently as Mike would, but essentially now you're putting it on a baseline, so you can look at it all in terms of a total dollar amount and see what the efficiency is per BTU, per unit of energy, which the dashboard dissects down for the user to see, and yeah, you're able to compare the efficiency of those fuel sources across the board, instead of trying to look at electric bill versus a fuel bill and just seeing the total dollar amount and not really having a firm grasp on how far is that fuel getting us.
The dashboard then also converts it all into sort of a uniform baseline, like she's saying. So it takes the raw, units of the fuel that we're getting that's being delivered. Maybe it's gallons of propane or gallons of oil or kilowatt hours of electricity, and it converts all of those into the energy content that represents and uses that as the baseline. So when we're looking at the overall energy consumption of, let's say, this building that's heated by propane versus the fire station that's heated almost all by electricity, versus the transfer stations, the 4-bay that's heated almost entirely by number 2 heating oil, we can convert all of those fuel sources into this uniform baseline of millions of BTUs per unit of that fuel, and then we can compare each building to the other buildings on the uniform baseline. And that exposes to us which buildings are going to really benefit more from getting a sooner efficiency, improvement and efficiency improvement. So that's how we're really going to be finding it. I think its first benefit is it's pretty clearly showing, at least when I read it, that the efficiency levels of the 4-bay unit at the town transfer station on an efficiency basis for the #2 heating oil that it's using probably make it maybe a top candidate for getting some improvements. And we're going to be looking at other towns in Vermont that have done similar size, similar age, similar material garage improvements, and look for ideas there that we can be able to use in our own towns when the time comes for us to do upgrades.
Dashboards like the one now present on the town website in Winhall provide an easy way to compare costs and levels of use and help illustrate the pathway to cleaner and hopefully less expensive fuels, creating a win-win for local municipalities. For the GNAT-TV News Project, I'm Andrew McKeever.